When we start making decisions on whether or not we like or dislike players for the upcoming fantasy season, we spend a whole lot of time diving into the numbers, specific statistics that go along with that player, and we try to see are there any trends or anything that points to whether or not that player will be good moving forward. But there's a base that we have to start with all players. And it's the team that they play for. Is it a team with a bad offense that's going to struggle to move the football, like Breece Hall and the New York Jets last year? Or is it a team with a bad defense that's going to be playing from behind, like Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase? The more explosive the offense, the more opportunity for the player. So who had the most explosive offenses in 2024, and what will they look like in 2025? Yo, what is going on, Headliner Nation? Today's video is all about the most explosive offenses in all the NFL last season and whether or not those offenses will carry it over to 2025. In one of my videos last week, I set a goal of 1,200 likes, and I told everybody if we could get to 1,200 likes, I would choose somebody from the comment section that also subscribes to the channel to win a free draft guide. And we blew the goal out of the water. Over 1,300 likes on my video talking about players that could be a trap given what their current ADP looks like. And our winner of a free draft guide is Chill92. He won a championship last year with Chase Brown, so he's going to roll with him once again. I don't blame you, Chill. Make sure you send us an email, info@thefantasyheadliners.com, so we can get you your free draft guide. And if you want a shot to win a free draft guide from this video, let's say 1,400 likes, and you'll hear more about what you need to do in a few minutes. To figure out who had the most explosive offenses in 2024, I take a look at 6 different metrics and then average them out to see which offenses had the ability to put up the most points. And what we're looking for is potential. These 6 categories offer us up potential for offenses to be more explosive, have more yards, and score more touchdowns. And the first statistic that we'll take a look at is seconds per play. Now, I'm not going to go through and individually talk about every single team in every single category. I'll talk generally about the categories, and then at the end of the video, we'll take a look at the final scores, and we'll determine whether or not some of those teams can do the same thing moving forward. But when you take a look at seconds per play, clearly, if you're running more plays, you have more opportunity, right? The lower the time frame, the quicker you are getting plays off. In the huddle, snapping the ball, completing the play. But this metric alone does not define offensive success. This is not indicative on how many fantasy points players are scoring. At the end of the video, when we talk about the overall score for these teams, only one team inside the top 5 actually finished inside the top 10 in this category. In fact, if you take a look at it, the longer it takes to run a play, the better your offense actually is. And you can see at the very top, teams like Indianapolis and Cleveland, it was taking them 27 seconds to run a play, and they were 2 of the most inconsistent offenses in all of football last season, which is crazy to think about. But when you take a look at all the numbers, it's clear as day. Just because you run more plays and just because you run plays quicker does not necessarily mean you are just going to be better on offense. One thing you may start to see with these metrics as we get further into them is basically everything talks about what teams do on a per play basis. In fact, of the 6 metrics that we're going to talk about, only one of them has to do with the course of an entire game, while the rest of them take a look at what each team does per play. Now, yards per play. Clearly, the more yards you're picking up per play, the more successful you're going to be and the more fantasy points you're going to score. This is definitely an indication on how good an offense is, because all of the teams that finished at the bottom of yards per play finished at the bottom of our overall score. Teams that finished at the top of our overall score. This is one of those indications that if you have a bunch of yards per play, you're going to be very good for fantasy purposes. You can basically say the same thing about points per play as well. But there's one team that's kind of an outlier here, and that's the Los Angeles Chargers, who finished 11th in points per play. They are a team that, in terms of overall explosiveness, even with how good Ladd McConkey was, when you look at the numbers overall last season, their offense wasn't all that explosive. But then when you take a look at the numbers here, you see that on a point per play basis, they're at number 11, just outside the top 10. However, when you take a look at seconds per play, they were 31st. So they ran far fewer plays last season, but in the plays that they did run, they were pretty darn good. Will we see that again from the Los Angeles Chargers in 2025? Will that offense be any different with some new running backs? We'll talk about it in a minute. First downs per play. I like to see how many teams are finishing at the top of first downs per play, because that means you're staying on the field longer. The more first downs you're getting, the longer you're staying on the field. So while first downs don't really translate just to the fantasy points themselves, the first downs translate to opportunity. The more you stay on the field, the more opportunity you have to score touchdowns, to pick up yards. So what do we want? We want teams that are getting first downs. Those are explosive offenses that are going to give us an opportunity to score more fantasy points. There was one team that was an outlier in this category as well, but it was going the opposite direction, and that's the Denver Broncos. For as high as you'll see where they finish in terms of final score, they finish substantially lower in this metric right here, which could mean a couple of different things. Number one, they just didn't pick up a whole lot of first downs. It could be they got to third down and we got stuffed, whatever it may be. Third down conversion will be coming next. But it also could mean that this is a team that was heavily reliant on big plays. The more big plays you have, the less first downs you'll have, right? Because if you need to get 10 yards for a first down, but you pick up 30 yards, obviously it's going to reset right there, and you're not going to have as much field to work with. Whereas if you were picking up 10 or 11 yards at a time, you're going to reset that first down marker closer to the yard to gain, which is going to lead to less opportunities for first downs. And that could have been what happened with the LA Rams, because now we're going to move over to third down conversion percentage. So how often are teams converting third downs? Well, when you take a look at the LA Rams, they finished 12th in first downs per play, but 25th in third down percentage. Now, what would be the reason for that? Why are they getting a lot of first downs but not converting on third down? Well, once again, that could be maybe they're just not going to third down as often. More big plays would equal less third down. But it could also mean that they're going for it on fourth down or turning the ball over prior to third down as well. So this LA Rams team, when you look at third down conversion, as a total, that doesn't look great. If you were looking for the best offenses last season and you were just wondering about third down conversion, you would look at the Rams and think they're really not that good. But then you take a look at how many first downs they were getting per play, they were just fine. They were top 12. So clearly they're turning the ball over before third down, they're converting on fourth down, or it's a mixture of both. Plus they have quite a few big plays. That's just keeping them out of third down more often. The final statistic we'll take a look at is turnover margin per game. How often were defenses taking the ball away, but offenses were not giving it away? Some of the best teams do not turn the ball over. They keep it in their possession. There were 15 teams last season to finish with a positive turnover margin. There was one team, however, that stuck out like a sore thumb, and it was the Chicago Bears, who averaged 0.5 turnover margin per game, which ranks 7th, but they had one of the worst explosiveness scores that you could find last year. So their defense was solid, getting the ball into the hands of their offense. Their offense couldn't get it done though. And they are one of the offenses that we're looking at this season is taking the biggest step forward. Will Ben Johnson be able to get them there? But then you have a team like the Tampa Bay Bucks that finished inside the top 10 for their final score, but they ranked at 20th in terms of turnover margin. Who's fumbling the football? Who's throwing interceptions? they got to go to a positive turnover correlation, which means the defense needs to do their part as well in 2025 and create more turnovers. So what you can see from this is that Tampa Bay actually has some room for growth. If they can go to a positive turnover margin and get themselves in a position to have the football more often while turning it over less, that's a better opportunity for fantasy points. But now we're going to break it down, and I want to go through every single tier from the top teams to the bottom teams and discuss who has an opportunity to stay there, what could change, and who could be falling. This is now the second year in a row the Detroit Lions have finished as the most explosive offense in all of football based on these metrics. And a lot of people are concerned about Ben Johnson being with the Chicago Bears, and I feel like I've said this in 1,500 videos so far this offseason. But their new offensive coordinator, Johnny Morton, Ben Johnson learned from him. Johnny Morton was a senior offensive assistant back when Ben Johnson took over as the offensive coordinator. And Ben Johnson has said before that he's learned a lot of his style from Johnny Morton. Jared Goff was also key in bringing Johnny Morton to Detroit. When they asked him on what his thought was about the offensive coordinator situation, Goff was all about Johnny Morton. The Detroit Lions, for as good as they are, even though they've lost their offensive coordinator, even though they have changes on the offensive line, if Tate Rutledge can step up at the center position and the interior guards can play pretty well, this is going to be a team that once again should rank as one of the most explosive offenses in all of football. For the Buffalo Bills, they're looking for guys like Keon Coleman to take a step forward and for a guy like Joshua Palmer to come in and add some explosiveness to this offense. But when you have Josh Allen, anything is possible. The run game with James Cook and Ray Davis should be good once again. And you know what? Dalton Kincaid, if you could take a step forward, this offense could get better as well. But I really can't see it getting worse. Same goes for the Baltimore Ravens. They brought in DeAndre Hopkins. There's something about the Ravens and signing veteran wide receivers that just cracks me up, especially guys who are basically at the end of their career. But even without DeAndre Hopkins, you've got Rashad Bateman, you've got Zay Flowers, you've got Mark Andrews, you've got Isaiah Likely, you've got Derrick Henry. This team should be great with Lamar Jackson under center once again. I don't see them falling very far, if at all. Washington may have been one of the most improved offenses in all of football. Cliff Kingsbury working together with Jaden Daniels was absolute harmony. And now they've added Deebo Samuel, so the rich get richer. This offense should be very good. And as long as Jaden Daniels doesn't have any sophomore slumps, which honestly, I don't think he will, this team could not only finish here, but they could end up going a little bit higher as well. In fact, I think Washington could be one of those teams that challenges Detroit for their number one spot. And of course, the Cincinnati Bengals. Their offense was huge last season with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. They re-signed T. Higgins. If he can stay healthy, that is awesome. They brought back Mike Gesicki as well, and you have Chase Brown at the running back position. Their defense also is probably not going to be any better than what it was last year. So because of that, Cincinnati could be throwing the ball an awful lot. One thing we need to keep in mind is Trey Hendrickson. That is still something that has not sorted itself out yet. He wanted a new deal. He hasn't gotten it, but he's still a part of the team. If that changes, it could boost some things as well. But as long as Burrow, Chase, and Higgins stay healthy for a full season, finding himself right back here in tier 1 should be no problem next season. All right, the first team in our second tier is going to be the Tampa Bay Bucks. They were really good last season, and Baker Mayfield has settled in with Tampa Bay. Great. But now they've added another weapon in Emeka Egbuka, and you've got Bucky Irving as a potential breakout for the entire season instead of just what he did last year after really Rachaad White was considered to be the main back for the first several weeks of the season. For Tampa Bay, just stay on the right track and stay healthy. As long as you stay healthy and create more turnovers, you're going to get the ball into Baker Mayfield's hands more often, and your score should get better. Philadelphia really doesn't have any concerns for me either, because this offense, even though it was carried by Saquon Barkley last season, Saquon Barkley could take a little bit of a step back, which more than likely he will, and they'll still be just as good. Jalen Hurts has fantastic weapons with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, and Dallas Goedert. So if you're looking at Saquon Barkley and thinking maybe he's a candidate to see a little bit of reduced overall fantasy performance this season, I wouldn't look at the entire offense that way. For as good as Green Bay scored here, they were really tough to own last season, except for Josh Jacobs. The biggest thing for me, for them to either stay here or go higher, has to be the addition of Matthew Golden. He's got to be that true number one wide receiver that the rest of this core has not been able to be. Let Jaden Reed be a number two, which realistically, that's what he actually is. Matthew Golden could be a big time performer inside this offense and help take it to another level. And hopefully some of the inconsistencies that we've seen from the last year, which mainly have to do with drop passes, won't affect them moving forward. For the Arizona Cardinals, it is 100% on the growth of Kyler Murray to Marvin Harrison Jr. Your number one cannot be Trey McBride. Can he put up number one numbers? Yes, but he can't be the only guy there putting together a fantastic season. And for Marvin Harrison Jr., a lot of his issues last year, I still think they stem from the fact that he just thought he would walk in and be better. He didn't play nearly strong enough. He wasn't really playing at the type of strength and weight that he should be for that type of wide receiver. And moving forward this season, it sounds like he's tried to take care of some of that by adding more weight and muscle. If he's done that and he hasn't sacrificed a ton of speed, then he should be much better in those contested catch situations and way better against those really physical corners that threw him off his routes more times than not last year. The Minnesota Vikings could be a candidate to take a big tumble this season if you truly don't believe in J.J. McCarthy. The season we got from Sam Darnold last year, I don't think anybody anticipated. Those were the type of numbers that a former number 3 overall pick should have been putting up for his entire career, but unfortunately, he got stuck with the New York Jets. Now Sam Darnold has moved from Minnesota onto the Seattle Seahawks, but they are going to replace him with J.J. McCarthy. If J.J. McCarthy is the quarterback that we saw in college, even if he plays at his floor all season long, you should see Minnesota stay right in this area. However, if for some reason he has issues with the knee or he just doesn't reach his floor because of needing an extra year to prepare or just having some issues where he doesn't grow to the point that he should, that's where this could end up taking a fall. If you believe in J.J. McCarthy, Minnesota's offense will be just fine. If you don't believe in J.J. McCarthy, then you have to assume that you would rank this offense much lower heading into 2025. Kansas City should absolutely be a candidate to be a much more dynamic and explosive offense in 2025. The key is staying on the field. Missing Hollywood Brown and Rashee Rice for a majority of 2024 is one of the biggest reasons why they just lacked a lot of explosiveness levels. Don't forget, they also were missing Isaiah Pacheco quite a bit as well and was running with Kareem Hunt at the end of last season. You start missing those three guys, you're going to have trouble consistently putting up big points. So if those three guys can stay healthy in 2025, Kansas City should be much better. The Atlanta Falcons, it wasn't until the very end of the season that we saw them finally treat Bijan Robinson like a workhorse running back. And I have to assume they will do the same thing, especially if Michael Penix starts. If Michael Penix is the starter, right here or maybe a couple of spots higher is where I could see Atlanta being at the end of the season. If they go with Kirk Cousins again, it really depends on what type of Kirk Cousins we get. If we get the Kirk Cousins from last season, they could end up being quite a few spots lower, especially if he plays all year long. If they go with Michael Penix and just hand over the reins right away, I could see them basically producing what we saw last year. The Denver Broncos, they added J.K. Dobbins, they added R.J. Harvey. That right there will be a big proponent to them going higher in this score for next season. When you have a really good run game to go with a really good pass game, teams are going to have trouble staying balanced, which is going to lead to some explosive plays. But like last season, when your running backs just were not getting the job done consistently, everyone falls back against the pass, and then you have issues. It's surprising to see that the Colts were actually this good last year, given the fact that really, when you watch them on tape, They weren't that good. It's about finding consistency with Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones. Whoever is the starter should remain the starter for at least a majority of the season as long as there is no injuries. Now with Daniel Jones, I don't know if this offense gets that much better. With a healthy Anthony Richardson, I don't know if this offense gets that much better. Both of those guys have a lot to prove. Anthony Richardson needs to stay healthy and take a step forward. Daniel Jones, he would like to showcase the fact that the New York Giants made a mistake by releasing him. I doubt that happens, but this offense, for me, probably doesn't get any better than where it is currently. Tied with Indianapolis is the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the 49ers last year also dealt with injuries. Brandon Ayuk, gone for a majority of the season. Christian McCaffrey, gone for a majority of the season. The running back that took over for Christian McCaffrey, Jordan Mason, also missed time. And Debo just hated being there. Their number one draft pick, Ricky Pearsall, got shot before the season started. I think that kind of tunes you into what type of season San Francisco is going to have. Just stay healthy this year and you'll get way better. The final team in tier 2 is the LA Rams. Now, the one thing about the LA Rams is they're really not the same explosive offense that they used to be. Matthew Stafford is getting older. He's not the same quarterback. Kyron Williams, even though he's good for fantasy purposes, is not really an explosive running back. You don't see those type of plays from him. So this offense is an offense that is going to consistently just beat you down and wear you out. Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are some really good weapons, and Tyler Higbee will still be there as well. If they can run the football effectively, you're going to see a team that is going to beat up on you, but they're not going to look crazy good while doing it. Let's move on to tier 3, and it's going to start with the Los Angeles Chargers, who realistically see such a low score because of the way they started last season, where they really relied on the run and didn't unleash Justin Herbert or the passing game until much later in the season. Ladd McConkey at the beginning of the year, he was nothing really to write home about. As the season wore on and they opened up the playbook though, Justin Herbert got better, Ladd McConkey got better, and now that you have Omarion Hampton and Najee Harris, along with this offensive line being together for another season, this offense is one of the teams that I expect to jump into the next tier, and I think it's pretty easy. The Seattle Seahawks tried to open up the pass game last season, go 3 and 4 wide, and become the Washington Huskies of the year before. That's what they brought in their offensive coordinator to do anyway. They wanted to see a progression to a high-scoring, air-it-out offense. That didn't work out, though, and Mike McDonald said enough is enough. Now Clint Kubiak will come in with his run game, and we're going to see a team that's going to wear you down. I don't know if they're going to jump a whole lot higher than what we saw from them last season. You've got Cooper Kupp, but realistically, what does he look like from a health perspective? JSN looked good last season. Can you keep it up? And can Sam Darnold build on his career year last season to show that Seattle made the right decision in trading Geno and signing Darnold? The Pittsburgh Steelers, I would like to think they'll go higher, but Arthur Smith is a turd. Aaron Rodgers is a turd. And you traded George Pickens. I mean, I don't know what to tell you about Pittsburgh. Do I think they're going to have an explosive offense this year? No, I don't. Do I think they're going to be incredibly better than they were last season? Probably not. Can Aaron Rodgers be way worse than what they had at quarterback last season? No, he cannot. So while this offense might be better this coming year, I don't know if we're going to see the type of explosiveness levels that get us super excited about owning a majority of those guys in fantasy. The New York Jets definitely have an opportunity, but they are very young when it comes to receivers, and they don't have a ton of crazy veteran depth. You've got Garrett Wilson, and outside of that, Alan Lazard, are you really expecting him to do a whole lot? Malachi Corley would need to step up. They drafted Mason Taylor as their tight end. He's got potential, but really it revolves around Breece Hall and Justin Fields. Justin Fields needs to revamp this offense and bring some energy to it, and Breece Hall has to be way better than he was last year. Is that all Hall's fault? No, it is not, but he does need to be better. Houston is about their offensive line. Their offensive line was not good last season, and then they went ahead and subtracted from it anyway. So it's going to be really difficult to tell how good their offensive line will be in 2025. And if it's not much better than what we saw last season, it's going to be hard to expect CJ Stroud to stay in the pocket and throw the deep ball to Nico Collins or Jaden Higgins or Christian Kirk or whoever. On the ground, they're bringing in Nick Chubb to maybe offer some more explosive plays compared to what Joe Mixon offered at the end of last season. But Chubb may be a shell of his former self. Maybe he won't be. Maybe he will be his former self and will take over for Joe Mixon. There's just a lot of questions here, and I don't know if I would be banking on this offense being 10 times better than what it was. The New Orleans Saints potentially have a quarterback situation. Now, Derek Carr announced his surprising retirement from the NFL. At that point, they were left with Spencer Rattler, who got some run last season, but he was very up and down. So they decided to draft Tyler Shuck, who's already old enough to basically be Spencer Rattler's dad and is now on an NFL roster after 14 seasons in college football. I'm being really over dramatic with those numbers, but if their quarterback situation isn't any better than last year, this could actually get worse. The Jacksonville Jags would be my pick to not only make a jump to tier 2, but to potentially make a jump closer to tier 1. Liam Cohen did really good with Tampa Bay last season, and now he's going to take over a Jacksonville team with a young quarterback in Trevor Lawrence who has shown upside at the NFL level. Brian Thomas, who was a breakout superstar last season, and you've got other weapons there. You just added Travis Hunter, you have Travis Etienne, you have Tanks Bigsby, which I never thought I would refer to him as a weapon, but here we are in 2025. This is an offense that could really grow. And if Liam Cohen uses them correctly, especially a guy like Brenton Strange as well, this offense should be a whole lot better. Carolina is another team that could realistically be better in 2025, but I don't think will climb the tier of explosiveness all that much. Bryce Young showcased some of that number 1 overall ability at the end of last season, finally. And Ted McMillan was drafted to come in and offer more explosive plays. But outside of that, you've got Chuba Hubbard at running back, who was good last season, but again, not the definition of explosiveness. And then at wide receiver, you've got 74-year-old Adam Thielen, and then you've got Xavier Legette, who is yet to show us that he offers any of the upside that Carolina wanted when they drafted him a couple of years ago. Potential to get better? Yes. Potential to get way better? I don't think so. The last team in tier 3 is the Dallas Cowboys, and this is all on Dak Prescott. The offensive line hopefully will be a little bit better this season, but Dak Prescott being healthy would be a huge boost to this offense as a whole. And they went out and they traded for George Pickens to give him a very solid wide receiver too. Big playability with George Pickens. Big playability with CeeDee Lamb. Jake Ferguson can definitely be a guy that can be a safety blanket for Dak Prescott. And then the running back situation will be one thing to monitor. If the running back situation can be more explosive than what it was last year with Rico Dowdle, then maybe they climb a little bit higher. But just Dak Prescott himself, I don't know if it's enough to get him all the way into the mid-tier 2 section. All right, let's go through the bottom tier real quick and discuss these teams and whether or not they even have an opportunity to get out of the basement. And team number 1 is going to be the Miami Dolphins. Do they have the opportunity? Yes. But trading Jonnu Smith does not help. And you also need to stay healthy at the quarterback position. This is really reliant on Tua. The more games he misses, the worse this offense will be. The Chicago Bears, they should definitely take a step forward. If they don't, hiring Ben Johnson will look like a total bust in year 1. I'm not saying it will be, and I'm not saying he is. I'm just saying they have to take a step forward. And realistically, they probably will. Las Vegas is another team that realistically could be better, but doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to be more explosive. Ashton Genty could be way closer to Josh Jacobs than he is to Christian McCaffrey or Jahmyr Gibbs. Not trying to downplay that situation at all. I still think he's a top 6 running back this year, but sometimes explosiveness looks 2 different ways. And you signed Geno Smith, well, you technically traded and signed Geno Smith. He's going to bring you maybe some more consistency in the offense, but I don't know if he's going to bring you a ton more upside. And you've got Jacoby Myers, but outside of that, you're looking at guys with Brock Bowers to pair that have a lot more upside at the wide receiver position, and we've yet to see that type of consistency. The Tennessee Titans may not get much better in 2025, but with Cam Ward, they should at least look better for the future. So while they may not take a big jump right here, they could take a small jump with the Cam Ward to Calvin Ridley connection, even though their run game with Tony Pollard isn't super explosive. And then heading into 2026, we could see them take an even bigger jump if they continue to add weapons. New England added Stephon Diggs to help Drake May take that next step. They also drafted Travion Henderson to help make this offense more explosive. But how big of a step will Drake May take? Ramondre Stevenson was underwhelming last year, but he should still be the starter. At tight end, Hunter Henry, he's good, but he's not really being utilized in the red zone the same way that he used to be. And outside of that, at the wide receiver position, you've got a lot of guys that are okay, but they may not be the type of guys to take this offense to the next level. Hopefully the New York Giants made up for missing out on Jaden Daniels last year, because Jackson Dart could end up being very, very good. But Jackson Dart may not get the opportunity to be very, very good in 2025. This offense has Malik Neighbors, one of the most explosive wide receivers in the entire game. But outside of that, they are missing a quarterback to take them to the next level. I don't think it's going to be Russell Wilson. I don't think it's going to be Jameis Winston. And if it is Jackson Dart, there could be some rookie growing pains. So while New York could get a little bit better, this is another team that I don't necessarily think just jumps a tier in one season. And then we come to the Cleveland Browns. And this one is going to be very interesting. Jerry Jeudy, Cedric Tillman, heck, even a guy like David Njoku and newly drafted Quinshon Judkins. Those are explosive athletes. Those are guys that can make plays. Who in the heck is going to be the quarterback? Is it going to be Joe Flacco? That could lead to more explosive plays. He can sling the ball down the field. Is it going to be Kenny Pickett? I don't know if that's going to be a huge jump for them. And if they go with a rookie like Dylan Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders, I don't know if that's going to be the call either. So really, you've got a 1 in 4 shot of making your offense more explosive with the quarterback situation. But are you going to end up picking the right one? Maybe Joe Flacco is just too old at this point, doesn't end up having what he did over the last couple of years, and everyone just ends up being a big bust, and Cleveland is right here again after last season. But I need to hear from Headliner Nation, which one of these offenses do you think will make the biggest jump in 2025? Let me know down in the comments below which offense you like the most. And if this video gets 1,400 likes, I will choose somebody who is subscribed to the video, who likes the video, and who leaves a comment down below to win a free draft guide. Hopefully you all appreciated the information in this video. We've got a ton more to come. The off season feels like it's getting a lot closer to being over, but we still have quite a bit of time. So subscribe, like the videos, turn on the bell notifications, stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll catch you all in the next episode of the Fantasy Headliners.